Morning, everybody. Hi. I'm still here in Toronto. I still have not made it home, and still attending to what I can from afar. So this request I had this week was about the critic, and as I think this is probably collectively true for many of us, have been feeling a little down on ourselves, feeling pretty not good about what we're able to do, unable to do. Some of us aren't able to attend to the people we love the most. We're not able to gather. It's an interesting time for the internal critic, and what the purpose of the internal critic is, where we're feeling, inadequate, failure, not good, incompetent, all sorts of uh, what would you call that? Pressure to pull ourselves down and back, right? Again, the critic is there to stop us from entering the world, stop us from moving forward. Without a critic, we'd just be right out there, doing all those things. And it's a very dangerous time. It's pandemic time. Our critics are up collectively and individually in a very powerful way. So this morning I worked to try to get in contact with that self-pushback, the internal critic within myself. And of course, the first thing I did, which we've learned, is to draw the critic. This is the thing that's telling me I'm a failure, I'm no good, I'm incompetent, I'm, not there for anyone. I'm all those things that so many of us are collectively feeling right now. I noticed, so I did draw the critic, and I will do a tracking exercise in a minute. But this was, this evil thing coming at me to shut me up. And when I looked further at it, I realized, oh my goodness, some of these markings here, they kind of remind me, of ancient, inking of self, and also I noticed that in the eyes there, oh my God, those are two contained teepees. And I'm a Plains Indian. Like teepees were big in our history of the Métis peoples. So it just really, I also noticed in the ears here, there was like two axes, like axing, cutting out the world, right? And surrounding myself with water, which I'm not sure about what the big yellow is across there. I haven't had a chance to interpret it all, but basically this thing that's trying to crush me feels really very much like our ancestors trying to keep me quiet and back and keep me safe during the pandemic, shut me up and shut me down, which is a very important thing to do. So, once we build a relationship with the critic and see that it's not your enemy, it's there to help you, and probably quite a lot during the pandemic, we can then kind of set the critic aside and track it a bit. So in the tracking, what you want to do is bring your attention to the trunk of you and notice in how your body experiences that pressure of the critic, like where the critic is saying, you're no good. So you're a failure. You're whatever it wants to tell you. It'll tell you anything it can that will quiet you so that you stay alive. So that's why the critic is so big in Indigenous communities, because we've had to quiet ourselves. We had to quiet our songs, quiet our dances, quiet our languages, quiet anything, quiet everything of importance. And I know living with a pedophile as a child, I had to quiet myself, feel really badly about me in order to crush me enough so that I could survive those years that I was going to have to live in that horrible environment, right? So this is your best friend in hell, probably the thing that's keeping you quiet during the pandemic. and keeping you at home, right? Which is so, so important, so important. And it's very collective. The critic is a very collective, ancient way of knowing how to survive impossible odds. When you're tracking, and I'm not just noticing where did I feel that this morning in my body, or how did my body experience it, in the deepest, it definitely is very deep. In the heart center for me, right? And so I'm not going to go through that exercise, but rather take you through that exercise. So where did you take the hit of the critic? Was that in your throat, in your chest? Just take a moment and quiet yourself. Have a pause. You can pause this. First do the drawing. Set that aside. Now come back to it. How is your body experiencing that critic? Really the physiology. Does it stop your breath? Is it in your chest? Is it lower in the body? Is it like a punch in the stomach? And when did you first experience a felt sense like that? Just take your time. Is it familiar somehow? Is that a familiar felt sense? Does it take you somewhere in time? Just noticing in a little more deeply. Is anybody else there, wherever you happen to be, experiencing this felt sense too? Is it all yours, or are you sharing it with others in the family, community? Just explore that felt sense. Just how collective is this? And just moving even more deeply into it, more deeply into it. Often the critic is ancestral. Did any of your ancestors experience this felt sense, this kind of blow that backs you way up? If you're a residential school survivor, were there other people experiencing this same felt sense beside you somehow, in a shared felt sense experience of quieting the self, shutting the self up and down? Imagining too, if it had not been there, what might have happened? What might have happened if that had not been there? If that felt sense had not shut you up and down, or your ancestors? What would the consequences have been if there had not been a critic? Would you still be here? What medicines kept you company and your ancestors company? I notice the water wherever I am in time. It's always keeping me company. So even with this intense, critical blow that silences us, we're always in company with land. What land and water was there for you, keeping you company while you were silencing yourself in order to survive a pandemic or an abuse? I notice I'm breathing better again, more air into my lungs. When I'm in relationship with the critic instead of fighting with the critic, when I understand and respect the force that shuts us up and down so that our children can be born, so that we can continue in our nations. Well, I hope this is helpful today. I miss you all again. Keep letting me know what you want, and I'll keep trying to deliver. Once a week, I'll try to make a COVID video for you, um, but only if it's useful, because it does take a bit of work for me. I love you a lot. Take good care. Bye-bye for now.